great artist will do whatever it takes to create a great vision, even if it means watching movies in a dark room 365 days a year. I'm a solar gypsy.
Obviously, I understand like big corporations and studios are going to want to put money behind something because everyone wants a sure win. No one wants to take risks anymore and spend money on things that they're not getting their return on. So I get that. And so being able to be 100% sure, is this a hit? You know, we've seen it in music. We've seen them come up with certain types of sounds that evoke a certain emotion from us. And we know, oh, if you play this particular hi-hat or this particular drum pattern, then people are going to like that based on all the most popular films that, you know, music has ever been out there. This is what most people gravitate to. But I don't know if they will ever factor that in. They're just looking at our immediate responses to seeing images, which is perfect because if they do it for that particular time. But let's just say, just for, you know, example's sake, let's just say they had that algorithm and that AI to figure out what the audience felt in the film, and they adjusted everything according to that information. And then COVID-19 happens. Now,
absolutely,
we don't want to see a pandemic film, or we don't want to see certain types of, you know, films. And now your whole thing is now out the door like anything else. So yeah, it wouldn't be perfect because of things like that.
absolutely. I mean, like, look at, you know, Wonder Woman and Tenant, like all these films that may not even come out this year. You know, it's really hard to tell. Absolutely. And I think, you know, and it's funny because these sort of things are so unpredictable. Like there's a video game on the Nintendo Switch right now, Animal Crossing. And no one could have ever predicted that it would outsell every video game, basically almost in history of all time.
Wow.
And it's just funny because it's about living in isolation in a little island where you have control and it's safe and everyone's nice to you and it's fine. And you just kind of fuss around your island, you know, picking fruit and building little houses and whatever. And you have little villagers that are animals. And somehow it has become like the mega hit of, you know, one of the best-selling video games of all time. No one could have predicted that it had just come out during this pandemic and it was so popular. Or even like Tiger King. I mean, this is another one where people were bored. They were looking for something crazy and bombastic to distract them.
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, I think that these sorts of things are unpredictable, but I do think that there could be an algorithm that says, you know, here's something that probably will barely make its money back unless there's a pandemic, in which case it'll make you billions. So,
well, right.
You know, cut your losses, make the Scoopy thing.
Exactly. Or what they'll do is they'll fold in different scenarios. I would say it would be kind of like any kind of, I don't know, natural disaster type of, you know what I mean, protocol that'll switch to. If there's a storm that happens in the Northeast, then we know all the people watching up there may not either, they're busy thinking about, you know, different things, or they're dealing with a certain thing, you know, because of the tornado that's happening there. Or, you know, if you have a film about, you know, missing children, oh, well, we have a case of kids getting missing in Ohio that we won't, you know, we know we're going to get a different outcome. So maybe we may not do an early release, because that'll also tell you where to do your releases. You know what I mean? Certain regions, you know how you have certain films that are not released every theater. They have a certain release in certain areas. So yeah, I can totally see them utilizing that as far as they possibly can. Yeah, I can see that.
It's funny you mentioned that. So when I was in college, when I was at Bennington, my summer job was filling theaters for test audiences and press screenings. So I would, you know, hang out on like 87th Street and be like, hey, do you want to see a free movie? And just like harass people on the street trying to give away these tickets. And it was really interesting because like I would get paid a premium for certain press screenings if there were audiences that were hard to fill, because these were like weird times, like, you know, 3 p.m. or something, and they needed specific demographics. And so I remember there was one day I was trying to give away tickets for 2 movies, Door on the Floor, and they were looking for women, mostly white, between the ages of like 25 and 45.
Wow.
So that was a huge pain. It was a bummer movie, you know? And then the other one I was giving away was Bad Boys 2.
Mm-hmm.
And that one, they were giving me, I think like, so Door on the Floor, they gave me $3 per person that came that was qualified. Bad Boys 2, I was getting $7. And they were looking primarily for African-American people. But I could not get African-American people to talk to me. And I also couldn't like get them to go to a damn movie, even though it was Bad Boys 2. I just couldn't get them to go at like 4 p.m. Anyway, so I was talking to these 2 ladies and they were like, oh, we really want to see this. It's depressing. And I'm like, oh, it'll be great, whatever. And this whole crew of like, you know, young men come by, African-American men. And I'm like, hey guys, you want to see like Bad Boys 2? And the white lady's like, we want to see Bad Boys 2. I'm like, sorry, no white people allowed. They're like, that's racist. And it was kind of the best thing of all time. But we got paid this a lot of money because they wanted the audience to be filled with people that would get all the jokes.
Oh, right.
Because like during the press screening, you know, if there's like a bunch of like in jokes or something, or you have like, you know, a divided audience, sometimes people don't want to laugh at something that might be considered off color, you know?
Right.
So anyway,
that's funny. I didn't realize that that's how I just assumed the touch screens are allowed to, well, I guess they do them differently, but I thought they were all like really planned and they picked certain people and they just, you know, made sure that, you know, a certain demographic of folks and they did this call, you know, almost kind of like fine tuning, you know, who should be in the audience for this and get all this stuff done. But yeah, no, I didn't really, but that makes sense though, because with all of your perfection and trying to get all this information, you just need to get folks off the street, just random and just do it randomly. Sometimes it has a lot to do with what somebody's going through at that time. Escapism could be huge. Somebody can be in the middle of, they could have just gotten fired from their job, or they can be going through a divorce or going through something personal in there and they just want to escape. And going to see Bad Boys, they just sit back and laugh and joke and they got that whole, you know, nice escapism piece right there. So yeah, that would make sense. But that's an awesome job, but that's pretty cool.
Well, I remember for one of the Bad Boys screenings, a press screening, and I think it was like a big one. It was like Variety or something. And they couldn't get any non-white people to go. Because I think they were only giving us like $2 a person. So like we weren't even trying that hard. So it was all white people. And like nobody laughed at anything.
Wow.
And so the reviewer was like, this isn't a very good movie.
Where was this at?
This is in Manhattan.
Wow. I'm from New York. So I'm like, they couldn't find no.
Well, no, it's because we basically, like what we do is we're not allowed to go to parks and we have to stand on the street getting people.
Yeah, I see. And then so at that time of day, yeah, no, I actually can see that in a way because, well, if it's all
tourists, it's like these white tourists.
Yeah, that's true. Because if it's an unknown film, then you're not going to get anyone. But if this is, you know, Martin Lawrence and Will Smith was huge at that time with Bad Boys 2. So that's what kind of surprises me. But then I think what it is too, New York is a different monster because everyone is so busy all the time, rushing to a job, rushing from one job to another job, rushing to get on the subway, to get here and there. So yeah, it is.
And like who's free at 4 p.m. in the afternoon, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's mostly just like loser tourists, honestly. Like those people are going to say yes. Or you do want to see it, but you're like, dude, I can't go see it like in an hour. Like I got to go with my friends. You know? And I'm going to go see it like in the Bronx. I'm not going to go see it some shitty theater. And also like, you're not guaranteed to even be able to get in, right? It's, you know, here's a pass. If you're able to get in, it's first come, first serve. But I mean, it's like this whole thing where you aren't even guaranteed entry. So for a lot of people, like, you know what, this is a waste of my time.
Yeah, like I got stuff to do. It ain't that serious. I'll wait for it to come out, whatever. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I was thinking if it was someplace else. And then location has a lot to do with it too. Manhattan is a very like everybody's ripping and running. If you were, you know, I don't know, in Fort Greene, Brooklyn, you know, that you probably would have got some people. you know,
totally. Yeah, but this was like we were showing it again, like at some theater, like on 87th Street. So we were trying to like recruit near.
Oh, you on 87th Street too? Oh yeah, girl, ain't nobody folks gonna be up there got time, but
exactly. Everyone's just super busy, so it was just, and that's why like some films, like after this bad screening for Bad Boys 2, this bad press screening, they upped it to like $7, and then that was okay, and then they upped it to like $15 per person that we got to go.
Oh, wow.
So we were just like freaking motivated. And I worked for like, you know, 18 hours that day. And I just like, I think I made like $7,000 off of Bad Boys 2.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Wow. Because I would have been like, yeah, I'll buy you a drink afterward. Come on, let's go.
Oh yeah. No, because it's like a 2,000 seat theater.
Oh.
And I got paid $15 per person that I got in the seat.
Ooh, that's nice.
Yeah.
I'd want that job right now.
It was kind of the worst. I mean, it was like, I think I made the whole summer, which was about 3 months. I probably made about $30,000, which paid for my year of college.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, I know people are watching right now, like, where are those days? Are we doing that anymore? Nah.
Well, I mean, it was a shitty, dangerous job, but yeah, I'm sure, I don't know. Yeah, it was a weird job, super weird job.
Yeah. But so you've been really, really busy. You've been a very busy lady in your life. I was looking, of course, at your bio and everything, and I was like, wow, she completed her medical neuroscience at Duke University, futurism at Stanford University, witchcraft and magic at Bennington College, which you'll have to explain that, because I'm like, what is witchcraft and magic? As a major in school, aerospace engineering at the University of Alabama, Huntsville, and you also recently completed a course, Egyptology, right? Egyptology at University of Pennsylvania.
At UPenn,
And you're an engineer at GTE Labs, Sprint, Lucent, Cisco. I'm like, wow, founded your, Majesty's Secret Beekeeping. That's just like an incredible, like, you're still really young. That seems like the resume of somebody who's like 80 or something. How are you able to, or have you ever been able to combine all of your education and your studies into any one film or a few films? Because you have a large background.
I just like to learn a lot. So yeah, I mean, I guess, you know, for like when I was at Bennington, I was also studying like semiotics and artificial intelligence. I also studied that at Bard, Simon's Rock College of Bard. And so, yeah, I was studying like, so when I was at Simon's Rock College of Bard, I was studying neuroscience, like cognitive neuroscience, but I was also studying artificial intelligence and how the brain and AI works together, and how we might be able to build AI by having it model what the brain does. Anyway, during that time, a really funny thing happened where I was reading the original papers by Alan Turing about the Turing test. Now, I thought I knew what the Turing test was because I had, you know, been in tech for a long time, and I thought I knew what it was. So I read the actual paper he wrote, which is pretty short, it's like 10, 15 pages. And it is not what I was told at all. It's a completely different thing.
Oh, wow.
And so I was shocked. And it's actually more of like a social experiment than anything. So I went to my professors, and I was an older student. I was like 25 when I was at these schools. And I said, hey, looks like no one's ever done the original Turing test ever. And my professors were like, that's just impossible. But I proved it to them that no one ever had. And so we did it. We actually performed the original Immitation Game Turing test as written by Turing. And it was really fun because we were actually exploring psychology because just, you know, for people who don't know, the original paper that he wrote was called The Immitation Game, the original Imitation Game. The Imitation Game was a like Victorian kind of, or post-Victorian party game where you would have 2 bedrooms off of a main room that were had doors shut with typewriters in them. A woman was put into one and a man was put into the other. And the party would write questions and deliver them under the doors, and the people who were locked away would write their answers on a typewriter and put the answers under. The woman would always tell the truth, and the man would always pretend to be a woman. So, and the party trick was, you know, how often people would correctly guess the liar, the man. So Turing's proposal was, what happens if half the time we replace the lying man with a lying machine? Would that change the rate of success? That was his test. And so I actually did this online chatbot kind of thing where I told everyone it was a gender guessing game, and they just had to find the woman. And they talked to a woman twice and a man and an AI, and they had to decide who was the woman in the conversation. I never mentioned AI. They had no idea, and almost nobody detected that they were talking to an AI.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, it was sort of interesting. Anyway, so all that kind of stuff, I mean, you could, that was the, So yeah, that was the original imitation game. That was the Turing test, was in a regular conversation discussing gender, which is sort of like this, you know, distraction.
Right.
If I insert an AI, would you notice? And it turns out, no one notices.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Because you're so focused on finding the woman, you're not detecting an AI. And so, you know, and that was actually, I actually did this experiment and wrote about it for 3 different classes. I wrote about it for my psychology class, my research methods class, and my philosophy of mind class. So, and it was written up in Wired. So you can read about it there. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, so that kind of stuff like definitely influenced how I approached real artists and understood artificial intelligence. You know, other things like futurism, absolutely. I, you know, influenced AI, medical neuroscience, understanding the mind, understanding the brain and the psychology of neurosurgery and like how cognitive neuroscience, you know, sort of impacts AI. I mean, I guess like, yeah, a lot of the things that I've studied have impacted, or beekeeping and how, you know, swarm intelligence works, and how individuals can become one united front in terms of one single organism. So yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of the things I study do have some impact, or Egyptology and codes, and how we communicate hierarchies, and how things can last forever.
How did you incorporate the witchcraft and the magic? So what was that? I haven't seen that part quite yet.
Oh yeah, so witchcraft and magic. I was really interested in that in terms of especially like semiotics, because witchcraft and magic, especially as a vocation, I think has always been something that's sort of interesting, because it's not, I'm not necessarily interested in witchcraft and magic as the result or the belief. I'm much more interested in, like, let's even just take a modern example of why is it that, like, let's say on eBay, it's absolutely not allowed for me to sell a spell on eBay that will have me send you a spell or do a spell here and tell you I did it to help you make money. That's I can't do that, right? But I can light a candle on live video and pray to Jesus with you. That's okay. Right? And I can send you a blessed candle, or, you know, like things that regarding prayer and religion I can do, but not witchcraft, not anything that's—
you have to change the name.
Totally. No, exactly. And so, and these are people who are doing these performative things for money. This is their job, or tarot reading, you know, things like that, or fortune telling. There's a special license for fortune telling, you know. So I'm interested in witchcraft and magic as the laws, the regulations, and the technology of these unverifiable, you know, unscientific, I guess, beliefs, and how it impacts our society and culture. I mean, if I had the first church of artificial intelligence, and I, you know,
which they have now, I think, by the way, I think I think I saw an article with a guy who's starting kind of like an AI or some sort of type of church like that. But yeah, go ahead. They already got that.
Totally. I mean, like, you know, is he, you know, are we allowed to spin off a child process of an AI to help you make money? If you give me, you know, is that considered a prayer, an AI prayer? So I think that, you know, and I've always also been interested in, you know, how AIs and robots and magic and witchcraft and prayer all come together. Like, there's this an automaton, which is sort of like a wind-up robot. There's an automaton, I think from the 16th century, that was developed when a young man, he had a concussion, his brain swelled and nearly died. And the father was praying at his bedside saying, you know, Lord, if you, you know, if you spare my son, I will make sure that monks are able to pray for you forever. And his son lived, and he's like, I don't know how I'm going to afford to pay monks infinitely. So he actually paid for a small automaton to be wound up, and it's a little robed monk that's on wheels, and he just runs around in little circles praying slowly.
Oh, wow.
And it's actually at the Smithsonian. So the question then became in the church, was this a legit form of prayer to have an automaton pray for you?
Wow. Yeah, I can see how that now, like just on paper, seeing the word witchcraft and what people's first thoughts of witchcraft would be like, what? How does that fit in? But that totally makes sense now. It really does. And it's so funny because the way you explained it now, I'm kind of like, okay, we had a Westworld kind of like reaction video the other day. And one of the things that I had made mention of, which was kind of funny, and it just dawned on me, I was like, Rehoboam kind of reminds me of Miss Cleo, the old psychic lady from those commercials back in the day, right? And it's like, it's predicting people's futures, which if you put that in the form of a witchcraft or someone doing what that's what that is. So I can totally see it. It's just a play on words. It's just using a different terminology, and people are accepting of anything technology based. It won't question it. But I'm like, if I was a tarot card reader and I started watching, Westworld and see Rehoboam, I was like, why are you kicking me off the street when y'all over there getting your things read and getting your fortunes text to you, your futures text to you, but yet I can't do my business? What?
And it's the same thing with devs, right? Like, here's a machine that predicts the future, and it turns out, spoiler alert, stop this now. Turns out that, it wasn't all knowing. It wasn't omniscient. It wasn't all seeing. Like, there was something that missed. And it was pretty important. And so, I think that it is really interesting that, like, we're going back to, the Greek idea of the oracles.
Right.
And these women who would tell the future, and sometimes it was not what you wanted to hear, or it was wrong. And you had to make a decision about, what you wanted to do based upon what the oracle had told you. And so, I think that we're seeing that a lot with AI. And, there's actually, I don't have it here. There's a amazing book called Gods and Robots. And it's a lot about how some gods were depicted as manufactured or were made. For example, what's her name? Pandora was actually depicted as a person who was made and then constructed of non-organic material and sent down to Earth in order to corrupt us. And so, this could be sort of construed as like an early automaton. And so, so I think that we've always had these relationships of religion and faith and magic with AI and machines. And I think that, there's that quote that, a sufficiently advanced technology is, sufficiently advanced technology is not detectably different than magic. And that, anyway. And so I think that that's always been true, that just because something seems magical, it may just be that we just don't understand it yet.
Yeah. And also we have way more faith in computers than we do humans. And I think that has a lot to do with it, because if, just like with Rehoboam, or even like the, algorithm in the artist, I mean, you trust this system more than you do human beings, because human beings are flawed, and this is a computer, and and it only does data. It doesn't have emotion. It doesn't have all these other things in it. So you tend to trust that more. So even though you have this AI that's no different than a psychic lady at the amusement park, we have way more trust in the AI than we do the psychic woman, because we see a lot of fakes, such as Miss Cleo, who was kind of like not really real, but yeah, I can totally see that. But just out of curiosity, what actually made you go into filmmaking then? Because you had, all these other backgrounds. It sounds like filmmaking was kind of always there, hanging out right here in the side of your ear while you were doing all these courses.
I'm a soul You're listening to the MCSFO podcast, where we speak one language, sci-fi.